Okay, so I got a question for you, and then I'm going to turn you over to the hands of one Ethan Sherwood Strauss. My first question is, we talked a couple days ago about how the negotiations are going, and you noted that it's unclear how many of the owners are really set on getting the deal that they've proposed now, and that maybe if it's 10 owners, will have a different result going forward than if it's 20 owners who really want, this hardline deal. Can you maybe explain that a little more and talk about the implications of each scenario?
Right, so there are kind of two schools of thought here. One is if you bought your team for a song 30 years ago, then you don't mind having a few bad years of revenue because you're going to make up whatever you lose and reselling a team for much more at some point. But if you bought the team for a fortune recently and you have all these interest payments associated with buying a team, then you just need a much better deal than they operate with right now. So the question is, how many owners fall into each camp? How many are hardliners? I don't know. One guy who might know speculated to me that the players needed to turn 4 owners. That there were 4 owners away from getting a reasonable deal now, whereas there were, without turning 4, they'd have enough of a hardline, sort of bloody-minded owners who'd rather sit out a whole season than accept anything the players are willing to go for now. So that's why, honestly, I think the players have a brilliant tactic. I don't think it is a union tactic, but I think it is brilliant for the superstars to go play overseas, because you get the right 4 players and you get the right 4 owners super nervous, and they're going to come on board and want a deal, because you don't want to see your Kobe Bryant or LeBron James or even your Darren Williams going and getting injured playing for somebody else.
I like to perpetually check in on your boldly optimistic prediction that no games will be lost. At this juncture in the process, how confident are you in that prediction? How do you feel about it?
Well, I'll be honest, my confidence took a little hit the moment of the lockout, because that changes the tenor of things. But from then till now, nothing has changed, because everything that's happened in the interim, the point of locking the players out is to get some time pressure on them, right? And the time pressure hasn't started yet. Nobody's really, some players have contracts where they get payments during the summer, but by and large, NBA paychecks wouldn't have started yet anyway. Games haven't been lost yet. So I think, the time pressure really comes up next on the owners, where they're going to, have to start scheduling games. Years ago when they were in a lockout, I think they said something in the middle of August was when the schedule makers started to need to get commitments to get the stadiums booked, so Christina Aguilera or whoever wouldn't take those nights they need in May, right? So soon there'll be pressure, real-time pressure. So I'm still operating, my story to you today is still that no games will be lost, and everything that's happening now is just posturing to set it up for better negotiating for one side or the other when they really do negotiate in a couple weeks or whenever it is.
I feel like we tend to think of David Stern as this great man of basketball, this guy who embodies the game and represents the game. And recently, it's this. It feels like a cynicism and
he's 5'4", right?
That he's actually. Well, a great man in basketball in spirit, certainly, and in intelligence, but not necessarily in stature. It seems like this is a crushing reminder that he's actually just an employee of the owners. And what I'm wondering is, can it be both? Does he represent the interests of basketball, and is he still that guy, or is he in actuality that's just our imagination and he's just an employee?
This is where it's tough, right? I think, imagine you're David Stern, right? It's no fun leading a league in a lockout, right? He likes to go around and be celebrated and make speeches about what a great businessman he is and what a great leader he is and all these things he's accomplished. And, in this moment of failure, it's no fun having that job. So, of course he wants a deal, right? The guy wants basketball to be played because that's what he's all about. Now, that said, this is when things come down to brass tacks and my hunch is he can actually force a deal on owners because he's such a forceful leader in a very strong position. But I don't think he can do that yet. I think he has to put on a really good show of putting up a really good fight to satisfy enough of these hardline owners. From Mark Cuban to Wick Grousbeck to these people who spend tons of money on their teams and want a better business reality. He needs to show them that he's put up a really good fight, and then at some point he can go back to them and say, look, guys, like, we turn the screws as much as we can turn them. Here's the best deal we can get. We should take it. But it's not credible to them now. They're more bloody-minded than that. So I think he has to put on more of a good show before we get to that stage.
I actually personally believe that the NBA is losing money. Now, I don't lose any sleep over NBA owners losing money, but I do believe that it's true. And I'm wondering, does the NBA potentially suffer from a bit of mission creep, and could that be why it's losing money between the WNBA, the operations in China and all over the world, and also the D-League? Is it possible that the NBA is losing money because it's trying to do too much?
I mean, I guess it's possible, but I mean, if you look at what they spend money on, like, you know, most of it is players, you know, like, and the players that make them money. I think that if you were to look at how much they overspend on role players, that's a much bigger factor than they spend on probably anything else. So, like, I'm not saying that I want to eliminate the middle class in the NBA. I think the union has an important role in preserving that. But in terms of, like, return on investment, you know, if you paid Derek Fisher a third of what he makes, he would still play in the NBA, and the league would have the same revenues. It would just make a lot more money. And most players in the NBA fit that kind of profile. Like, they underpay rookies and superstars, and they overpay those guys who accrue all the votes to approve the new CBA. So, you know, that's where the big money is lost. Like, you know, the WNBA, you know, is a very cheap thing comparatively. It seems kind of dirty to, like, single that out as, like, you know, this is the problem here. And, you know, you make a very interesting point about China earlier. I'm sure that they've, you know, I'm sure that they've not done it very well in China because, as you point out, like, where would the revenue come from? But at the same time, come on, like, that's the biggest market in the world for basketball, and they're supposed to be aggressive there. Like, they have a problem in China, which they're trying to fix, and I respect this, which is, right now the way the revenue is set up is, like, if they spend $100 million in China on building stadiums and stuff, and let's say they make $120 million back, they have to revenue share the whole 120. So they're going to spend $100 million in China, and then they're going to give the players, I can't do the math right now, but, like, more than half of that, right? So of the 120 million. So this is, like, a big disincentive to invest in China. Meanwhile, we do want big Kevin Garnett billboards all over China. We want Kobe Bryant flying there. We want, you know, teams playing there. Like, this is going to pay the bills for all of us to watch the NBA that we love. So they should be aggressive in China. They have sort of a dumb setup for the way they invest in China right now. They have to, you know, they could lose money or make a tiny bit of money, but because it's all revenue with no expenses counted for it, they just have to share it all with the players. It's just a bad setup. So they're trying to fix that. The players see it as a pure money grab, but I see it as, like, it's a legitimate, fixing the accounting.
Do you think that the argument could be made that any internationally gleaned profit should only go to superstars because that's all people abroad care about and all they know of the NBA?
I'm for paying superstars more.
If you're dividing it among players.
I don't know. I mean, in fact, like, I respect the reality on the ground, which is there's just no political appetite for that. You know, like, I mean, you could make the same case in the NBA, you know, with domestic profits too. But the fact of the matter is, like, the players are pretty happy with the current deal, which shares things that way. So I'm not going to tell them it's wrong.
I've heard from a lot of people the owners want to lose a year. Do you think that that's just some sort of rumor to get people riled up and to get people freaking out? Or do you actually think that the owners, most of them, actually are set on losing a year and indeed, in fact, want to?
I mean, obviously there are some who feel like that. You know, one guy that works for a team told me, he's like, yeah, we hope, you know, we'll make $30 million profit, basically. We'll save $30 million if we just lose this whole season. It'd be great. But, you know, I think it's a little bit like Billy Hunter saying yesterday that, you know, his best guess is they're going to lose the season. I think it's more just you keep spreading out that message, and it's a way of sending a message to the other side that we're comfortable, you know, being hardliners here. We're not freaking out about the schedule. You know, I think it's just, you know, of course the NBA owners want to have an NBA season. That's all they do for a living. You know, that's their whole business is NBA basketball. Of course they want it. You know, so it's just a question of getting the best deal they can to have it as soon as possible.